You're listening to a 3CR podcast recorded in a 3CR community radio studio in Melbourne, Australia. If you like what you hear, please consider donating or subscribing so we can keep bringing you more independent community content. For more information, go to 3cr.org.au.
Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin Time show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. This is Marisa and I will be with you for the next hour. And a warning that this episode of Doin Time may contain audio images of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have died and discussion of all deaths in custody. First up, you'll hear an interview with Nadez, who is an Iranian refugee who's been involved with the recent encampment protesting the so-called fast-track system for asylum seekers. And we have heard from Nadez many times. She has been a very loved and welcome guest on this show, speaking about the ongoing encampment. We will hear from her about future plans as the encampment has now closed. We'll also bring you an interview with Laura John, Associate Legal Director at the Human Rights Law Centre, who will join us to talk about the High Court's ruling that ankle bracelets and curfews are unconstitutional and people released from indefinite immigration detention. So we'll talk about that very soon. But in the meantime, we will welcome Nadez to the show very soon. About 10,000 people are in immigration limbo because their claim for asylum was rejected under the fast-track process introduced by the Coalition in December 2014. On the line, we have Nadez. Hello, welcome.
Hello, this is Nargis. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, another opportunity. Yes, I'm here to explain to you, update to you. As you know, we're closing the encampment, which was 108 days. We had protests, but we're not going to give up. We never give up. Just we change our strategy. And also I want to let you know we're going to Canberra, Rally Canberra, which is on November 19th, 20th at the Parliament House. We will have a rally there and to show the government our objection and ask the government, please finish in this limbo, because we are just the victim of this racism process, fast-track process. Please finish this limbo. And then after the Canberra, we have another strategy at the Melbourne as well.
So tell us a little bit about Canberra. What will actually happen there?
Yes, we're going our community and also from the Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, all the refugees who are the victim of this fast-track system, they join us and all together going there and make a rally at the Parliament House. And we have peaceful protest and ask the government, please finish this limbo, which is the 19th and 20th of November.
So tell us a bit about your personal story and what led you here to Australia, Nadez.
Yes, I came to Australia since 2013 with my family, my husband and 3 kids. And from 2013, we in Limbo, and my kids struggling with their tertiary education, also me as well. Most of the people at our family with this difficult situation study at the uni and graduate from the uni. We got the skill and trade for this system, but we have to still in limbo. We sometimes my kids say we not get good at achievement until the obstacle of or restriction of the visa removed. Because we want to do something, we want to more education or more skills, but the restriction of visa is like an obstacle on our way.
Nadez, it's really heartbreaking, you talking to me about this stuff. I mean, hundreds of refugees and their supporters have rallied quite a lot, haven't they, to demand the government grant permanent protection to asylum seekers who have been on temporary visas for 12 years. And I know that, asylum seekers have had a very tough time during this encampment. It's been like about over 100 days, hasn't it?
Yeah, 108 days.
Wow.
We stay there 108 days. As you know, we passed the winter time, we passed the chilly weather, we passed the cold weather, and just our guys is asleep on the concrete, on the street. And also we had got 2 or 3 times the attack from the racism people, from the Nazism people, and we passed a few attacks from the people as well. And our guys had been damaged by their hand and their knees, and we got lots of difficulty this time. This time is above the additional 12 years in limbo and suffering in limbo, and we had any chance to see our family in third country or invite them. After 12 years, I haven't seen my dad, and during these 12 years, I lose my mom, my mother-in-law as well, but we not able to see them at least one time.
It's disgusting.
Yes, this 108 days is additional suffering above the 12 years, but it's still the government ignore us. Sometimes I ask the government, why you think the refugee is enemy? Refugee not enemy, not criminal. Just look, the refugee came here because there isn't any choice, and they forced to escape place, that danger place, and came here to looking for the safe place. Please open your heart, open your eyes, open your heart, and look at us. We are not enemies. We here and working hard, pay tax, and study hard. What we can do to prove you.
Did you come by boat with your family, Nadez?
Yes, yes.
And so you and your family are still on this fast-track system. You haven't got permanent protection as yet?
No, not yet.
So there's been quite a number of refugees, haven't there? Sri Lankan, Tamils, Iranians, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Iraq. And they've all been protesting around the clock. Can you tell listeners how they can get involved?
Because the fast track system is designed to, I think, ignore the refugee or deport the refugee, and we are the victim of that system. They want to design to torture the refugee. All refugees, it's the part of the vulnerable people of the society. You should have to give us another opportunity after, for example, my family case is we applied for federal court around 2018, and past 6 years we are still waiting for waiting list on federal court. While the government immigration doesn't allow us another review, another opportunity. And I just want to ask you, this refugee after the 12 years, it is eligible to pass away to granted the permanent visa. Because
That's right.
They show you they're working hard, they study hard, and they not, if we after 12 years, we don't have to prove we are the real refugees. Because if we are not real refugees, economic refugee or financial refugees, already we back to our country. But we fled from the danger. We not able to back there. We lose our home.
Yes.
We don't have any home. Please let us to call Australia is our home.
So basically, really what you're saying is that Labor still refuses to give the approximately 8,000 people, including yourself, who've been trapped on bridging visas for 12 years, and there's been a refusal for a pathway to permanent visas.
Yeah.
So the Melbourne encampment movement did spread to Sydney, Brisbane and Adelaide.
Yeah.
And so you're going to go to Canberra. I'm hoping that I'm going to have you back on this show again to look at the plans in a bit more detail later.
Yeah. Thank you, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, it's so lovely to have you. Was there anything else you wanted to say before we finish?
No, I just want to ask all people who heard my voice, please support us, join us at the Canberra, and please support us and ask the government what is our fault, what is our, I don't know, we didn't anything wrong during this time we came here, but after 12 years punishment is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Nadez, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be back having you back again.
Thank you so much. I'm very appreciated.
Lovely to hear from you. And
Thank you.
We'll talk again.
Rising our voice. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye. Bye.
And that was Nadez, who you heard an extended interview with Nadez, who is an Iranian asylum seeker who came by boat to Australia and still hasn't had a permanent visa.
Down dirty, round the campfire.
Hi, this is Shirley Hood. Brr. You're invited to the 2024 Beyond the Bars CD launch on Thursday, the 21st of November at the During Centre behind the Collingwood Town Hall. I'll be there as MC for an evening of talks and music, including a panel discussion with some of our deadly broadcasters and live music with our deadly Bart Willoughby. Thursday, the 21st of November, the During Centre. That's behind the Collingwood Town Hall, 6:30pm until 8:30pm. Put this in your diary. Free CDs, snacks and drinks provided. All welcome, so I'll see you there. Brr.
and you're back with the Doin Time show. In case you've just tuned in, this is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. We're going to be speaking very shortly with Laura John, and she is the Associate Legal Director at the Human Rights Law Centre. And she's going to be joining us to talk about the High Court's ruling that ankle bracelets and curfews are unconstitutional for people released from indefinite immigration detention. And I'm going to be speaking with Laura and developing that discussion further by speaking to her about the recent media release that's been compiled by the Human Rights Law Centre and looking at ways that the Albanese government is punishing asylum seekers and hoping that these laws will not come in. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Marisa.
Good afternoon. It's lovely to have you.
Thanks
Laura,
very much for having me.
I want to welcome you to the program, the Doin Time show, which is a safe environment that speaks to marginalised communities and including Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and asylum seekers.
It's great to be here.
So, Laura, do you want to start off just giving a little bit of intro about yourself?
Sure. So I'm an Associate Legal Director at the Human Rights Law Centre, and we use a combination of strategic litigation, law reform and advocacy to create systemic change. And I work specifically to defend the rights of migrants, refugees and people seeking asylum.
Thank you, Laura. Now, I want to start off with a very, very pertinent quote here from yourself, from the media release, just to kick off the discussion. And you say, every person should have the same rights to freedom and dignity, but over 100 people have been locked inside their houses every night and subjected to invasive ankle bracelets, simply because of their visa status. Now, that's ended. Could you just talk a little bit about the background leading up to this legal challenge?
Yeah, sure. So unfortunately, we've seen the Albanese government continuing again and again to punish this small group of people on the basis of their visa status. So you might recall that a year ago, the High Court ruled in a very significant case, NZYQ, that it was unlawful and unconstitutional for the Australian government to detain people indefinitely, that is forever, in immigration detention. So that decision had life-changing consequences for people who'd been detained for years without knowing when or even if they would ever be released. Many of those people are refugees who cannot go back to their home country, or they're people who are stateless and have no country to go back to. So at that point, the Albanese government had the opportunity to reform the broken immigration detention system. But instead of that, the government chose to try to legislate its way around the High Court's decision by imposing a regime of nightly curfews and ankle bracelets that extended immigration detention into people's homes and lives. And it's that regime that was the subject of the more recent High Court decision in YBSD last week.
So these laws were effectively rushed through by the Albanese government in December 2023, is that right?
Yes, that's right. They were a knee-jerk reaction to the High Court determining that indefinite immigration detention was unconstitutional. So instead of giving people the opportunity to rebuild their lives, the Albanese government chose to rush through these panic laws, imposing ankle bracelets and nightly curfews for this small group of people.
And this has been happening up until when?
So up until the High Court's most recent decision last week, when the High Court determined that it was unlawful for the Albanese government to be imposing these ankle bracelets and curfews. And at that point, it meant that people were no longer subject to the curfews. The ankle bracelets had to be removed. But unfortunately, a day later, the Albanese government is once again trying to rush through further laws to reimpose those ankle bracelets and nightly curfews, and also do a raft of other punitive measures, continuing to demonise this one group of people just because of their visa.
And these are people that have come by boat, or has it been for other methods as well?
Really, the only unifying factor for this group of people is that there's no real prospect that they can go back to their home country or that they can go to any other country. That's the only unifying factor. Some of these people are refugees, some of them are people who are stateless. But really the only thing they have in common is their visa status, and that's that they're on bridging visa Rs, meaning that they can't be returned to any country.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for mentioning that. That's a really essential point that listeners needed to be aware of, because the reason why I mentioned the boat thing is because there's been so much discrimination against that group of the group of people that arrived by boat by the successive governments.
That's right. And unfortunately, discrimination is the hallmark of Australia's immigration detention system and our immigration system more broadly. So not only do we discriminate against people because of their mode of arrival, but now we're also discriminating on the basis of the visa they may hold and the bridging visa they may have.
So despite fundamental protections in law against detention and interference with bodily integrity, the Albanese government still wants to rush through the laws?
That's exactly right. And it's astonishing that after having a regime found by our highest court to be unconstitutional, to be unlawful, to be punitive, that the Albanese government's response is to turn around less than 12 hours later and try to reintroduce those very same visa conditions that our High Court has just said it cannot do.
So this is whether they're citizens or not?
So this only applies to people who are not Australian citizens.
Who are not Australian citizens.
That's right. But one of the important things that the High Court determined last week was that it doesn't matter whether you're an Australian citizen or a permanent resident or whether you're on a bridging visa or some other kind of visa. The government doesn't have the right to punish you. That is something that is only vested in the courts, as it should be, because we do not want individual government ministers punishing individual people on the basis of a political whim or the public narrative at the time.
So there's not really any safety or dignity, is there?
There's a real absence of both safety and dignity. You're exactly right.
And what about people that are serving their time in prison? Are they included in this?
No, they're not, because it's really important to understand that we have a separate criminal legal system that deals with people who have committed criminal offences, and it's judges and courts who are making decisions about the punishment that is appropriate. What we're seeing here is the Albanese government attempting to use the immigration system, which is really just for the purposes of determining whether people can remain in Australia, using that system to punish people because it's not satisfied or it thinks it has the right to impose double or even treble punishment. And that's a really fundamental problem with the approach the Albanese government is taking.
It's highly inappropriate. It's a violation of human rights. I mean, it beggars belief, really, Laura. You know, like curfews and ankle bracelets really imposes ongoing punishment. And there's family disruption, you know, finding work and constant fear of being sent to prison if they're just a few minutes late arriving home. What is this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the court last week recognised that the way this curfew operates is that a person is limited to one location for 1/3 of every single day. Now, that's not a curfew, that's just detention. And in relation to the ankle bracelets, the court acknowledged the real physical, psychological and emotional burden imposed by these devices and their interference with bodily integrity. And as you say, it completely pervades a person's everyday life and their ability to rebuild their lives with their families, in their communities, and even to find work.
So where to from here, Laura?
Well, the government has introduced this new legislation last week, and in addition to trying to reintroduce these punitive visa conditions, the government has gone much further, wanting to enter into arrangements with unspecified and unnamed third countries, which could potentially result in the potential warehousing of people offshore. And in addition, the government wants to give itself expanded powers to reverse protection findings for people who are already recognised as refugees. So we know that these proposed laws will rip people from their families and prevent them from ever returning to their lives in the Australian community. The government is obviously playing a very risky game here by attempting to legislate its way around the High Court. But more fundamentally, it's time for the Albanese government to allow people who have been indefinitely and unlawfully detained the chance to rebuild their lives and with their families and communities.
And there's an unnamed plaintiff, obviously, who has brought this matter to the High Court.
Yes, that's right, a really courageous plaintiff who was willing to take this case to the High Court and was successful. Let's not forget, was successful in this case. So I can't imagine the horror that that person must be experiencing now at the prospect of potentially having these ankle bracelets and curfews reimposed.
You know, it's really interesting. We heard about this through the mainstream media, about ankle bracelets, and it's been really placed under cover, hasn't it, up until now?
That's right, and I think we've heard a lot from the Albanese government about how this regime is a means of protecting the community. We've heard a lot about community safety, but it's really important to know that the High Court didn't buy that argument. The High Court didn't buy that this regime is about protecting people. This regime, the High Court said, is about punishing people, and that's not okay. It's unlawful, but it's also the antithesis of Australian values of a fair go and mateship. So it's really time for the Albanese government to live up to those values.
You know, really relevant to this discussion as well, Laura, before we end the interview, I'm just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the word stateless and what that means for asylum, for asylum seekers.
Sure. So a person who is stateless has no nationality. So that means that there is no country that is willing to accept them. So for people who are stateless, there are no options. There's nowhere else for them to go. So Australia really is, in a fundamental sense, their home. So if you're a stateless person who has been caught up in this new regime, you really don't have many options because there's no country that will accept you, and you're currently looking down the barrel of further ankle bracelets and nightly curfews in Australia. It's a completely unsustainable and cruel and calculated regime that has to change.
How does that happen, the stateless?
There's a variety of ways that might occur. Nationality is wrapped up with domestic citizenship laws, so sometimes there might be a change of government, a regime that comes in that decides that a whole group of people, because of their ethnicity, are no longer considered citizens of that country. People are in a very vulnerable position when that occurs, and there are unfortunately instances of that around the country. For example, people who are Rohingya are often not recognised as citizens in Myanmar. That leaves them stateless with no country that is willing to accept them.
Can you direct listeners to the explainer on the Human Rights Law Centre website?
Yes, look, we're doing our best to make sure that we're getting out quickly accurate explainers of not only the High Court's decisions but also these latest laws that the Albanese government is proposing. You can access those from our HRLC website.
So it's really important that we remain vigilant, isn't it, in regards to this matter?
It is really important that we understand the facts. There's a lot of unfortunate misinformation out there about this particular issue. It's really important that we inform ourselves and our friends and our families, and where we are able to, that we get on the phone to our local politicians to let them know that we won't stand for this.
Laura, thank you so much for coming onto the program. Are there any final comments that you'd like to make before we finish?
I think it's just really important to take this back to real people with real lives and real families living in the Australian community who have already been punished not once, not twice, but 3 times by the Albanese government. It is absolutely time for these people to have the opportunity to rebuild their lives. And that's an opportunity that every other Australian citizen is granted every day. It's about time it applied across the board.
An injury to one is an injury to all. And, you know, really these curfews are not new. They've been imposed on, you know, there's been a lot of genocidal acts, hasn't there, with curfews over history in this country.
It's really not a legacy that I would hope Australia would be entertaining.
Thanks so much, Laura. Lovely to have you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Bye-bye. And that was Laura John, Associate Legal Director at the Human Rights Law Centre, who spoke to us about the High Court's ruling that ankle bracelets and curfews are unconstitutional for people released from indefinite immigration detention.
Gather round, people, I'll tell you a story, an 8-year-long story of power and pride. British Lord Vestey and Vincent Lingiari were opposite men on opposite sides.
Vestey was fat, money and muscle. Beef was his business, broad was his door. Vincent was lean, spoke very little. He had no bank balance, our dirt was his floor. From little things, big things grow. From little things, big things grow.
The Ringy were working for nothing but rations, but once they had gathered the wealth of the land, daily the pressure got tighter and tighter. Gurindji decided they must make a stand.
They picked up their swags, started off walking at Waddy Creek. They sat themselves down. Now it don't sound like much, but it sure got tongues talking back at the homestead, then in the town. From little things, big things grow. From little things, big things grow.
Investing man said, I'll double your wages, £7 a week you have in your hand. Vincent said, we're not talking about wages, we're staying right here till we get our land.
Vestey man rode, Vestey man thundered. You don't stand a chance of a cinder in snow. Vince said if we fall, others are rising. From little things, big things grow. From little things, big things grow.
Vincent Lingiari, he boarded an airplane, landed in Sydney, big city of lights. And daily he went round softly speaking his story to all kinds of men from all walks of life.
Vincent sat down with them big politicians. This affair, they told him, it's a matter of state. Let us sort it out. While your people are hungry. Vincent said no thanks, we know how to wait. From little things, big things grow. 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 You can sing too, you mob, if you're in it. This is all about reconciliation, so get at it, we want to hear you.
Vincent Lingiari returned in an airplane back to his country once more to sit down. And he told his people, let the stars keep on turning. We got friends in the south, in the cities and towns.
8 years went by, 8 long years of waiting, till one day a tall stranger appeared in the land. And he came with lawyers, came with great ceremony. Through Vincent's fingers, hold that handful of sand. Go! From little things, big things grow. 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 You can be Aboriginal idol. You can be
story of Vincent Lingyari, but this is a story, something so much more.
How power and privilege cannot move a people who know where they stand when they stand in their law. From little things, big things grow. 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 From little things, big things grow.
Stand in solidarity with Palestine this Sunday.
Hi, it's Nasser Mashni from Palestine Remembered, Australia's only dedicated show on Palestine. Join me every Saturday morning at 9:30 and very importantly, get along to our rallies. Sunday, 12 o'clock, State Library. Join us.
We have to mobilise to show our support for Palestine. 12 p.m, State Library, this Sunday.
Rally to demand freedom and justice for Palestine. No war on Gaza.
Free Palestine Melbourne is a 3CR supporter.
Yarra City Council want to know your priorities to help create their new council plan. Yarra is changing and growing, and we want you to be a part of shaping its future. By spending a few minutes today, you can inform their plan to set up Yarra for decades to come. We want to hear from as many people as possible. Whether you live in Yarra, own a business, work or hang out here, let's shape a better Yarra together. Visit yoursayarra.com.au/council plan 2529 and share your feedback before 9 a.m. on Monday the 2nd of December 2024. Yarra City Council is a 3CR supporter.
And I don't believe in fighting today in any one front, but on all fronts. In fact, I'm a black nationalist freedom fighter.
This country is a nation of thieves.
We're never going to get justice here in these filthy racist courts here.
Our people have been massacred, and we're not supposed to grieve for that. We've got to do something more drastic if we're serious about this.
Move over or we gonna move on over you.
Yilliman with Kieran Stewart Asherton on 3CR dives deep into Indigenous resistance and global anti-colonial struggles. Featuring frontline activists, it confronts Australia's identity, challenges power structures and fuels revolutionary discourse. Wednesdays, 12 to 1 p.m. First show, November 13th.
And you're back with the Doin Time show. And yeah, you heard two interviews today, two extended interviews, and I wanted to thank our guests for coming onto the show. You heard from Laura John from the Human Rights Law Centre and also from Nadez, who has been a very much loved guest on this show, Iranian asylum-seeker. It's approximately 4:39, and I just wanted to read out a very short media release also from the Human Rights Law Centre. And sometimes on this show, what we do is that we dedicate some of the show to reading out articles or pertinent media releases that are important. And that's for people who are unable to read or who are unable to get onto the internet. And that's something I think that still needs to happen, even though there is technology. So I'm going to start off reading, it's entitled New Anti-Slavery Commissioner Welcomed by Civil Society Groups. Civil society groups have welcomed the Albanese government's appointment of Australia's first national independent anti-slavery commissioner. Chris Evans, a former Labor minister, has previously served as CEO of the Global Freedom Network of Walk Free, working with faith leaders to end modern slavery. The new commissioner has a wide remit to help shape the implementation of future modern slavery reforms, including to Australia's Modern Slavery Act. There are significant expectations of the new role from business, civil society and faith organisations, migrant worker advocates, unions and survivor support groups. Civil society groups have pointed out, however, that the Commissioner's office currently only has a modest budget of $8 million over 4 years, substantially less than comparable roles such as the New South Wales Anti-Slavery Commissioner. The office also currently lacks explicit enforcement or investigation powers. The groups are calling on the Albanese government to now increase the Commissioner's funding and powers so that Commissioner Evans' office can effectively tackle modern slavery in the supply chains of Australian companies. The Global Slavery Index estimates that 41,000 people in Australia and almost 50 million people globally currently live and work in situations of modern slavery. An independent statutory review, and there's a link as well, and you can Google that for the website, of Australia's Modern Slavery Act, published in May 2023, found the laws had not yet caused meaningful change for people living and working in modern slavery. The Albanese government is expected to respond to the review before the end of the year. Karen Adams, legal director at the Human Rights Law Centre, said, "We welcome the appointment of Commissioner Evans and look forward to working with his office to tackle the entrenched issues of modern slavery in the supply chains of Australian companies. As the recent findings of the modern slavery risks faced by palm and other temporary migrant workers in the Australian agricultural sector demonstrate, there is an urgent need to step up Australia's efforts in this area. We urge the Albanese government to ensure that the new Anti-Slavery Commissioner has the powers and resourcing needed to drive real changes to corporate practices." Professor Justine Nolan, Director, Australian Human Rights Institute, said, "Australia is now at a critical juncture in its path to tackling modern slavery. A well-resourced Anti-Slavery Commissioner will need to be a key part of the government's future strategy if we are to show the world we are serious about helping end this scourge." Carolyn Kitto, co-director of Free Slavery, said, "In 2018, we boasted that we were leading the world in our actions on modern slavery, and we were. We can no longer make that claim. It is one thing to have legislation and a new commissioner. It is another thing to actually decide to adequately fund this role and the law's implementation. Meanwhile, Australian businesses continue to compete on a playing field which rewards those who have practices such as forced, bonded and child labour in their supply chains." Ramila Chanith, President, Australian Tangerine Women's Association, said, "Without an anti-slavery commissioner who will be able to enforce tangible legislation and actions to hold industries to account, we will continue to be enslaved in products made or supplied by China. Yuris are facing horrific human rights abuses, and the Australian government needs to start taking meaningful action to ensure we are not complicit in modern-day slavery." Amy Sinclair, Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific Senior Representative Business and Human Rights Resource Centre, said, "Today's appointment has been a long time coming and stakeholder expectations are high. Appropriate funding and independence will be critical elements of this new office if the Anti-Slavery Commissioner is to deal effectively with the complex drivers and impacts of modern slavery in Australia." So the background: in 2022, academic and civil society partners released a major report, and that report will be on the Human Rights Law Centre website. So that's really an edited version of the media release, and if people want to know more, they can certainly look at that on the Human Rights Law Centre website. So yeah, look, there's a lot going on, and of course we do know that in some ways people in prison are slaves too? And are they getting the right programs as well? And look, they don't even earn enough in there for their release. It's approximately 4:45 and you're listening to the Doin Time show. And I am actually going to be playing you another song now. We heard a song previously by Paul Kelly, Little Things, Big Things Grow. And I'm going to be playing you another song now called Eagle by Southeast Desert Metal.
Yarra City Council want to know your
I will do that very soon.
It's the sale of the century. The 3CR Garage Sale. Brought to you by the Sporting Record.
9 to 2, Saturday the 16th of November in the 3CR car park.
At the rear of 21 Smith Street, Fitzroy.
Records, CDs, books, household items, 3CR merch, new and pre-loved. You never know what you'll find.
And every cent goes to the station. The 3CR Garage Sale, 16th of November. It's the sale of the century.
You might have heard about the Community Radio Plus app, but it's only when you start using it that you'll wonder how you lived without it.
You can listen to us wherever you are, at home, work, driving.
On public transport, gardening, protesting, or even in the bath.
Just search Community Radio Plus wherever you get your apps.
And you're back with the Doin Time show. Apologies to listeners. We had some technical difficulties, but at least you got to hear about the 3CR garage sale as well. And yeah, so see if you can rock up to that. And also you just heard a song by Southeast Desert Metal called Eagle. Quite a low-key show today, quite unusual. Usually I have a lot more interviews. It's getting towards the end of the year. There's been a lot of illness and trauma by our communities this year. I think it's been a very tough year for all, and we always bring you coverage from the Doin Time show. But yeah, we'll be doing some more in-depth interviews next week. So it's approximately 4:52. And we're nearing the end of our show. We're going to be going out pretty soon with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella by the Rumpy Band. And it's thank you once again to Nadez and also Laura John from the Human Rights Law Centre. I think I am going to play another announcement. I think what I'm going to do is I'd really like to play Karen's show again, and I do really want to give it an extra plug. It's so important. We've interviewed Karen, who is the president of the Black People's Union, on this show many, many times, and wonderful Aboriginal activist. And I'd really like to just give his show one more plug. Here we go.
And I don't believe in fighting today in any one front, but on all fronts. In fact, I'm a black nationalist freedom fighter.
This country is a nation of thieves.
Now, we're never going to get justice here in these filthy racist courts here.
Our people have been massacred, and we're not supposed to grieve for that. We've got to do something more drastic if we're serious about this.
Move over or we gonna move on over you.
Yilliman with Kieran Stewart Asherton on 3CR dives deep into Indigenous resistance and global anti-colonial struggles. Featuring frontline activists, it confronts Australia's identity, challenges power structures and fuels revolutionary discourse. Wednesdays, 12 to 1 p.m. First show, November 13th.
And you're back with the Doin Time show, and it's approximately 4:54, and we're going to be going out pretty soon with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella by the Rumpy Band, and it's goodbye from Marisa. Stay tuned every Monday for the Doin Time show. It's every Monday at 4 to 5, and yeah, we'll be having plenty more coverage and interviews as time goes by. It is nearing the end of the year, and yeah, we have to keep going. The show must go on. Be kind to each other, and bye-bye. Take care.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast. If you found it valuable, please consider donating or subscribing to support independent community radio. To find out more, go to 3cr.org.au.